Hello, and welcome to the Average Joe Sportscast. I'm your host, Braden Good, and today we're going to be talking about the Dodgers primarily. We'll talk a little about Super Bowl at the end, and we have my dad here, Mark Good, who is pretty knowledgeable about the Dodgers and their organization. So we're glad to welcome him aboard. So I guess we'll first get started by talking about the biggest story of the day, where the Dodgers land Trevor Bauer as a free agent, which, to be honest, I don't know if I saw it coming. I mean, I saw the news reports talking about how he may be interested in going to the Dodgers, but I also heard the Mets were a possibility, and I didn't know the Dodgers were willing to spend a lot of money to get him, and apparently they are. He signed a 3-year, $102 million deal, with making $40 million the first year, 45 the second year, and 17 the third year. However, he does have an opt-out clause after both of the first year and the second year. He can go ahead and opt out. So it's going to probably end up being a 2-year deal. I can't imagine he leaves $45 million sitting on the table the second year of the deal, and then he'll probably opt out after that third year. So 30 years old, he's still pitching in his prime. I guess, Mark, what do you think of the signing? How do you think it's going to affect the Dodgers lineup?
Well, how do you beat this team? They have more pitching than any other team, and I know the Padres tried to upgrade their pitching over this offseason, but they can't compete with Price and Kershaw and Walker Buehler and now Bauer. It's like, to beat these guys in a series, it's going to take Herculean effort. You can beat one or two of these guys, but you're not going to beat four of them.
Yeah, I mean, this has to be one of the most stacked pitching rotations that I have ever seen. Like I have, I haven't seen I wasn't around for the old school days back when they probably had more stacked pitching rotations. But I mean, you've got Walker Buehler, who was an ace last year. You got Trevor Bauer, who is the NL Cy Young Award winner. So I mean, that's pretty awesome. Then you got Clayton Kershaw, who's won it 3 times. David Price, who's won it once. And while he is on the downside of his career, I mean, he can still eat up a lot of innings. He can still get it done. And then you also got, to finish it up, I think they'll probably have Julio Urias playing the fifth starter. I think that's probably what they're going to roll.
Maybe. Yeah, they got Dustin May. They've got Tony Gonsolin. There's no lack of pitching on this team.
That's true. I just think although I also heard that Trevor Bauer likes to start on 4 days rest, so there may even be sometimes they do a 4-man pitching rotation, and he goes off of 4 days. That might be something that he had to negotiate with the Dodgers, because that's a little unusual for a pitcher. I mean, pitchers don't go, 4 days rest anymore. It's usually 5 days or 6 days. So I think that'll be an interesting wrinkle.
Well, the interesting stat that I saw was that 7 teams aren't paying $40 million in payroll for their entire teams. So, the Dodgers are in the almost $250 million of payroll, which is just ridiculous money. But they want to win, and they want to win now. and I mean, they want to win a few of these World Series. One was nice, but they want to get 2, 3, 4. They'll see how far they can make this go. And, when by the time Bauer gets to his third season here, Kershaw's contract, I think, might be over. He might retire, or who knows what. But, they'll renegotiate that when it gets to that point, I think.
Yeah, I'm sure Bauer is planning on looking at this as a 2-year deal. I mean, if he gets injured after that second year, then he might stay on for the 17 million. But that's kind of the pittance for a guy who's just came off making 45 million. So my guess is it's going to be a 2-year deal. He'll stay for 2 years, make $80 million, and then he can negotiate at that time. And he'll still only be 32. I mean, he'll still have 3, 4 more years of good, high quality baseball pitching in him left.
Possibly.
So he could still get a huge deal at that point.
It's possible, but pitching is a tricky thing, and you don't know how long these guys can keep going. Kershaw had a resurgence this last year where his velocity was up and he was getting more outs. His ERA was down after kind of going up the few years before that. He started pitching like an ace again, but hopefully that wasn't just because the season was so short and he didn't have that many games to get worn out. But,
yeah, I mean, he is getting up there in age, I'm just glad that he was able to perform in the playoffs because, he's been kind of known as a playoff choker for a little while. So he's able to get it done this year is definitely good news for him.
Mm-hmm. Well, his playoff chokes were overblown. He'd have great games and then one that would just be disaster. Overall, he was a pretty good pitcher, but yeah, he had some bad luck and probably was left in some games or put into some games where he shouldn't have been there just because of what he's done in the past. And, that can come back to bite you.
Yeah. Well, and so what's interesting about the rotation too is I'm pretty sure it was Blake Snell that won the AL Cy Young this year, right? He was the guy that won it. I think so.
Possibly. He was the guy that they took out of the game 6 and then disaster struck for Tampa. So
yeah, well, now he's over at the Padres, so he'll have even more opportunities to choke against the Dodgers.
Well, he had them bottled up. I mean, for 5 innings, they didn't do anything. But, if you're only a 5-inning pitcher, then and that's all he did all season long. He never pitched longer than that. So, if you got guys that don't go deep into games, and that's one of the Dodgers' strengths here is, they got guys that are starting pitchers. These guys can go 6, 7, 8 innings, maybe throw a complete game here and there, which, the complete game is a lost art in general. I mean,
yeah, pitch counts and everything. It's made things a little not quite as good.
Yeah, and in the Koufax days, he pitched 27 complete games on his own one season, and I don't think there was 27 complete games pitched in all of Major League Baseball last year. So
yeah, that's probably true.
And that's even including some people that got recorded for 5-inning complete games because of the double headers that were getting played. And, it's like, hey, that's a complete game. Yeah, well, it's a 5-inning complete game, so that's not really much of a stretch there.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's kind of sad that it's everyone that's sort of the game is ruled by what's that called, analytics. Pitchers third time through a rotation, they never do as well, and it's like I miss back in the days, and it was sort of a manager had to make a gut check, and it was like, do I feel this pitcher can get these guys out? Yes, I do. I'm gonna keep them in there. I don't care if he's gone 102 pitches,
Yeah, I think Louis T threw 240 plus pitches in one game back probably in the 60s. They just kept throwing and throwing and throwing. Of course, I think he went 12 innings too. So
that is unheard of in today's game. If people are going more than 7 innings, it's like a long start by a pitcher.
Yeah, Jack Morris for the Tigers pitched 10 innings in a World Series game. I mean, you don't see that stuff happening anymore. And that was like in the 80s, I think.
Yeah. So a little before my time, but not so far back where you're not so far back when they're filming in black and white.
Right. Yeah, it's not like the guys that pitched 26 innings back in the 20s or the teens.
That would be wild.
If you get outs, you don't have to face the batting order multiple times. If you're
it's true.
If you're mowing them down, if you're pitching to 3 guys an inning, you'll get through 6, 7, 8 innings. And that's what Bauer did, last year. He, 1.73 ERA, I think.
I mean, that's impressive.
And for him, he's a local guy. He grew up here, so he probably grew up as a Dodger fan. So he's there's something about coming to pitch in your home stands, your home field, your family. That's got to feel good for him.
Yeah.
And he's on a team that's the obvious favorites to win the World Series again.
Well, I mean, they were the favorites before they signed him, and now they signed him, and it's just like, good luck getting 7 games on these guys.
Well, we lost Kiki Hernandez and Jock Peterson, so.
Yeah, but I mean, I feel like those guys are sort of platoon guys. I mean, we have Mookie Betts, we have Cody Bellinger, we have Corey Seager, who actually played really good in the playoffs last year. I mean, it's like you look at this lineup and it is stacked. And I mean, I don't know if we're going to bring back Justin Turner. I was hoping we would get DJ LeMahieu. I was hoping we'd be able to score him, but
yeah, that pushed the payroll up to near 300 million.
Yeah, but if they won, I mean, I think it'd be worth it. So I would like to see them bring back Justin Turner.
I think they will bring Turner back.
4-year deal.
They're not going to give him 4 years.
I feel like 4 years is too much. I feel like maybe you do 2 years with a team option the third year. Or
they might be
like that.
They'll probably end up with a 2+1, which is good.
Yeah,
he's on the downside of his career. He's mid-30s, 36, I think. He's still a good hitter, and he's a great teammate. And you can't say enough about those guys that are great teammates. They make everything easier. If you go for long seasons of play, you don't want guys that are head cases in your dugout.
Well, I mean, then you also got to have those guys that are the good, solid role players. The guys that aren't going to be superstars. They're not getting, talked about for MVP or going to the All-Star game, but they're your good tone setters, your role players. I mean, they're crucial to any team winning anything.
You have to have, and that's one of the reasons why the Dodgers have been in 3 of the last 4 World Series and probably should have won 2 of them. But they've got a team of guys that know their role on the team, and they know what they can do. They have a lot of versatility in what positions they can play. So, they lose a little bit of that with losing Kiki Hernandez. He wasn't a superstar, but he did everything they asked him to do. So.
And the guy knew how to hit Bumgarner, man. I think the guy had like a 500 average against Bumgarner or something like that back when he was in his prime. So the dude could hit Bumgarner.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's one of the few Dodgers that could.
Yeah, but I think last year they had guys like Edwin Rios, Matt Beattie, and I feel like those guys are going to be able to step up and fill the hole left by Kike. I feel like they didn't get as much run time last season as they would have because of him on the roster.
Possibly. So, it'll be interesting to see what happens. Is Gavin Lux a major league player, or is he just a flash that everybody thought was going to be great and disappears? He was pretty good the season before last, but not good at all last year. And if he becomes that everyday second baseman, then you don't miss a guy like Kiki Hernandez, because you got a guy that's doing that.
Yeah, which is true. Yeah. And then I feel like Jock Peterson. I mean, I think Jock Peterson was a power guy, but I don't think he was going to get on base very much. He was one of those guys you can only really bring him in against right-handed hitters, and he did. Yeah, he hit for power, but he didn't really hit for average.
He could not hit lefties. He was a clutch hitter in the playoffs and World Series, though. That. Who knows? If he could hit like he did in the playoffs all season long, he'd be an all-star every year. I mean, who knows? But we're not going to miss him. We got quality outfielders and quality outfielders that play better defense, have better arms, maybe not as much power in some of these guys like Chris Taylor and Pollock, although Pollock had a lot of home runs last year, but
which is good because the year before he was kind of garbage.
Well, he was injured. That's the thing. It's like when you're healthy, the game is a lot easier.
Yeah. Well, and so I feel like, yeah, I feel like Jock Peterson has limitations. Actually, we wouldn't have even had him last year if the trade with the Angels had gone through. I
That's
think they had
right.
everything in place to send him to the Angels, and so I don't think the Dodgers are going to miss him that much because they're already willing to ship him off.
Yeah,
So
no, he was expendable. He was a part-time player making starter money.
yeah, I feel like they'll miss Kike a little bit more because I think he was just so versatile. You could put him anywhere, but
yeah, he could literally play every position, and those guys are rare. Not that he did, but he could play second, third, short, first, all the outfield positions. If you needed to, he could. And
yeah.
So and he's a great guy in the clubhouse. I think the guys like him. So
yeah,
that part that's going to be missed.
Yeah, you need those locker room guys.
The guy that brings enthusiasm when you're in the middle of a 7-game road trip or a 12-game road trip. You've been back east for a week and a half, going on 2 weeks. It gets the grind. So you need those guys that kind of lighten the mood and make it not feel so oppressive sometimes. And so that's going to be missed. But hey, they've still got Mookie Betts. They've still got Garcia. They've got. It's like this team is crazy, and the payroll is. They've got the payroll to go with it too.
Yeah. So do you think that's kind of a flaw that you can have a team that can amass? Look at other sports out there. You got the NBA. They have they sort of have a hard cap. You got the NFL who has a definite hard cap. Do you think that the fact that there is no hard cap in baseball is sort of hurting the disparity of who can play the game, or do you think that no salary cap is a good thing and that other leagues should adopt it?
Well, if you look at this list of the under 40 million teams, I think the Indians made the playoffs. The Rays were in the World Series. The Marlins, I think, were in the playoffs. The A's were in the playoffs. I think that sometimes, I think teams overspend sometimes. And that was one of the things I was reading is like the Dodgers might try to ship David Price, get out from under some of that money because I guess he's owed a lot of money.
Yeah.
There's potential that he could be trade bait if a team was willing to eat some of that salary.
Well, that's the thing is, does any team even want him? I feel like he was kind of a throw-in to make the money work on the Mookie Betts trade. So, is there another team that even wants him? That's the tricky thing with trading a guy like that.
I'm perfectly fine keeping him because that gives us 7 quality starters. And obviously you don't need 7 quality starters, but you never know when some guy's going to go down and miss 6 weeks with a back injury like Kershaw did a few years ago, or guys, who knows? Injuries happen, and every time you think you got more guys than you know what to do with, somebody gets hurt and now you're stuck and you're scrambling to make a bad trade for a overpriced pitcher who's not that great but was great once. And
so maybe that's what the Dodgers need to hope for. Some team gets desperate enough to say, yes, we'll take David Price. Please give him to us.
Well, who knows? He didn't pitch last year, so you don't know what he says he's good, but we'll see. Hey, if he pitches like he did their World Series year with the Red Sox, you'll keep him around because it makes you unbeatable.
Yeah, I think they're unbeatable now. And even if they have a starter, they can't quite go, maybe he only goes 3-4 innings. You have 2 other starters in the bullpen that you can say, all right, go in there. You can go ahead and eat 4 innings for us, eat 5 innings for us.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to tire out your guys and you don't have to tire your guys because your bullpen is stacked too, because you have 2 starters sitting in it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, they're this is exciting. I did not expect them to make this deal. I just thought it was more money than they were willing to spend, but they're obviously willing to spend a lot of money.
Yeah. Well, I think they figured their window is now, Bellinger's going to want to get paid. Seager's going to want to get paid. Urias, is going to get paid in the future. Walker Buehler is definitely going to want to get paid. So they're about to get a lot more expensive. So maybe they're trying to bring in a bunch of guys on short-term deals that they can, use them, dump them, and then re-sign their young guys and keep it going.
Well, that's always the thing. It's like no matter what you're doing, you're always looking for the next replacement for what you've got. And if you don't have guys in the minors that can step into those positions, then you end up having to pay a lot of money to keep guys around. And that's the price. But there's only a few teams that are willing to pay huge dollars like this. So who knows? I mean, I'm not on the business side of it. So, it's like, I like seeing teams that stay together for a long time, but I understand that there's a financial ramifications of having a 500 million payroll is it's unreasonable.
Well, I don't think there's any team that's going to hit 500 million. I mean,
eventually
that would be insanity.
Well, when the Lakers back in the 80s, the Lakers signed Magic Johnson to a $25 million contract for 25 years. Now, obviously, he didn't play for 25 years, but they, when he was making $1 million a year, you're thinking, wow, that's crazy money. And now this at 40 million a year, it's like, it's ridiculous. And,
well,
and it's just going to get bigger.
Well, I think James Harden could have signed a $50 million deal, like $50 million a year. Like that would have been his extension if he had extended with the Rockets.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, that is true though. How like the money has just gotten insane. I mean, now you're paying $1 million for a guy to come off the bench, who's your 8th, 9th guy off the bench in basketball.
Well, see, now, Trevor is the highest paid player in the league. Mike Trout is second. When was the last time the Angels played a playoff game? So spending money doesn't make you a playoff team. It's a tricky situation to get the right guys and spend the right amount of money. And, that's what Friedman's paid big dollars to do, is to get a team on the field that's ready now, and to keep the minor league system healthy, so that you're not hemorrhaging players and having to trade all of your prospects to get that one piece of the puzzle that's missing, so that you can get into the World Series again. And this team, they don't have any shortcomings. So
yeah, I feel like they got it. They got both sides of the ball: offense, defense, pitching. I think this team is stacked, and I think they're going to go deep into the playoffs. And I mean, hopefully they'll win another World Series. That's definitely the hope.
Yeah, I mean, that's the idea, is to get this team. That's why they're spending this money. They don't want to just make the playoffs. This is win the World Series money.
Yeah, which I'm a little surprised that they're willing to spend it, because I remember when Friedman first started off, he sort of wanted to keep the salary cap low. He wanted to keep the funds low, sort of make bargain deals for players. And now all of a sudden he's like, you know what? I'm going all in, pushing all my chips to the table, and I got this big budget. I'm going to use it.
Well, I think the difference is that when he got here, the minor league system was abysmal. And so he spent the first few years building up that minor league system, signing international players, signing guys to minor league deals, just building up the wealth in their minor league system. And so that's where some of these guys are coming from, the Bellingers and Seagers. And he was smart enough to understand that you don't trade those guys away. I mean, there was so much talk about trading Seager or Bellinger, especially when they were in the minors and not quite here yet. And it's like, yeah, they could trade him for who knows who. And then, 3 years later, neither one of those guys is with you, because you traded Bellinger away, and that pitcher you traded for is no longer pitching because he blew out his elbow and he's done.
And then you see the guy, then you go see Bellinger rack up an MVP for another team, and nobody wants to see that. I think the Dodgers did that. They traded with one of their young guys who ended up being an All-Star MVP candidate.
Pedro Martinez. I think he's in the Hall of Fame. Oh yeah, he was on the Dodgers for a little bit.
I think of someone a little bit more recently. I think they traded him to I can't remember the team off the top of my head, but Dodgers had him in their minor league system, and they traded him for.
Well, they traded Paul Konerko, first baseman, to Chicago maybe 15 years ago, and and then he became a perennial All-Star, and he's got a shot at the Hall of Fame, I think. Adrian Beltre, they let him get away, and he's going to go to the Hall of Fame. It's just it's tricky keeping the right players for the right amount of money. And it's not easy, but you don't want to decimate your. They traded a lot of players, a lot of prospects to bring in Manny Ramirez. I don't know if any of those guys panned out elsewhere, but Manny was only here for a couple of seasons before he flamed out and PED'd himself out of the game.
Yeah, and they end up finishing. I think he ended up being on the. I think they got rid of him, dumped him. I think he went back to the Red Sox, and
I think he went to Japan, and
it's kind of a sad story for a guy who was, he was box office when he was on the Dodgers. I mean, he was a draw. Him, Adrian Gonzalez, like they were definitely people wanted to come pay money to see those guys.
Yeah, and that was part of Friedman. Friedman brought in those guys, and then he let them go when they couldn't produce anymore. So that's the trick: is bring the young guys up when they can help, and then get rid of them before they're a drain and they cost too much, like Albert Pujols and the Angels.
Oh yeah, that's an albatross if you ever seen one.
They probably still got a few seasons of $25+ million a year. And he's decent, but he's not $25 million a year decent.
No, and he has been $25 million a year decent for the last 7 years or something like that. He
was definitely on the decline when he signed that contract. So good for him, but not good for the Angels.
No, definitely not. Switching gears here real quick, our time's almost up, but we got the Super Bowl coming up this weekend. What's your who's your pick?
I would love to see Tom Brady win again, but because neither one of these teams are my team, I'm just hoping for an entertaining, good game, and the best team will win the game. I think they're both really good teams. I think they play a little differently. I like Tom Brady, and he's a winner. And he might not be the most talented player that ever played, but he knows how to win. And so we'll see. But Mahomes and Kansas City, they're also just a lights out team. So it should be an entertaining Super Bowl.
Hopefully, it's better than the one that the Rams and the Patriots played a couple years ago, when it ended up being 10-3, and that was the final score, and it was just a defensive snooze fest.
Well, you know what? Some of the games are not exciting. I don't know if I want to see a 53-48 blowout or a back and forth score.
I would love to see a 58. That'd be an awesome shootout. I would love that shootout.
Well, it's entertaining. You don't want to take any plays off, I guess. You never know what might happen, but I think these teams are a little better defensively than that. So, I don't think that's going to happen.
I think it's going to go. I think it's going to go to the Patriots. Honestly, I'm not a huge fan of Tom Brady. I feel like
the Patriots.
I'm impressed with what he's done. Or not the Patriots. I'm so used to Tom Brady on the Patriots. I think it's going to go to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I want to see Mahomes win because I think he's young, exciting. He's the next great thing in the league. I think he might be the next Tom Brady. So I'd love to see him win it, but I think the Buccaneers are going to win because the Chiefs are missing 3 of their offensive line. They're missing their 3 starters on the offensive line, and the Buccaneers have a really good defense. They have a really good pass defense. So I think Mahomes is going to be running for his life.
I think the Bucs are a very good team. What I've seen of the playoffs, they look solid. I mean, going up to Green Bay and beating them, Aaron Rodgers is great, but that's impressive to go up there and win on the road like that. I would not be surprised if they win the game. They're good.
Yeah, I'm gonna call it Tampa Bay. I'm gonna say its final score is gonna be 27-24. I think it's gonna be close. I think it's gonna be that, but I think the Buccaneers are gonna pull it out 27-24. That's my pick for the game.
I like it.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us today. Thank you, Mark, for your insight in sports and everything. We'll be back with you Monday where we'll talk more Super Bowl and we'll get to see if my prediction was correct. Guys, have a good night. Bye-bye.